Hello guys, and welcome back. And as you can see, we're at the back of the car again. Now, last time we were back working in this area, we were putting a battery box under the boot of the car. And the next logical step was to create a battery box for the boot of the car to put all of the remaining batteries into. This is it. Stick around and I'll show you how I did it. Okay guys, so now that I have the lower battery box in place and I have the battery modules in situation, everything is done there except, well, I haven't sealed up the battery box yet. I haven't done any of that painting or sealing yet, and I won't be doing it to this car anyway, because this is not the final car that this unit is going into, or that the batteries are going into. This car has always just been a test mule. So what I plan to do is to, in the final car, is seal everything up and put in the BMS connections and so on. But I'm not going to worry about BMS connections for now. That's in position. I'm happy. I can go ahead now and prepare for the upper battery box. That may or may not be used in the final build, but it's just convenient for now. So I get this into position, get the battery modules all positioned in where they have to be, and then use my hole marking punch to mark all the holes where the securing bolts need to go, because obviously the batteries need to be bolted down. Mark all the holes, get them drilled. I think I'm just going to use riv nuts, these wee things. So put in the riv nuts, get everything ready to go, and then I can put the batteries in for real. Once all of that is done, bring the cables up through from below and then get the thing done for real. I need to ensure I have space for the two contactors and whatever electronics I need to put into this box. I'm afraid, as usual for me, I am standing here mulling over what the best way to do this is, having not pre-planned it properly. I have a habit of coming up with a method of doing a thing and then just firing ahead and doing it, and sorting out the issues that are created as I go. So what I'm thinking of here is I want to have a connector plus a fuse plus two contactors, and they all are going to have to go into this space over here. Now there's lots of room for them. Yes, I'm talking to the camera. The people in YouTube are listening to me. Some of them are. Well, one or two of them are. My daughter's just pestering me, laughing at me talking to myself. As you can see, I have the battery modules positioned close to where I think they're going to be. And there's a reason for the way the layout is. Basically, the reason for having these ones this shape is so that they're nice and simple to link between the modules. I've already got little links made up for those, and it's just a matter of screwing those in, so that's nice and simple. So the links between all those ones at that end are nice and simple. They're, as you can see, they're shoved right up against the side of the battery box, and that's not an issue because there's nothing at the side of the battery modules that I need to get access to. At this end I've got one link put in, as you can see, just to test to see how tight or how much space I need at the end, and that's plenty of space, probably more than I need, but I made the box, deliberately made the box a little bit bigger than it needs to be, so that's not a problem. And this one is in this position for a particular reason. Now you may not be able to read that. If I turn around you might be able to read it. Module 29. This is the last module, the least negative module in the pack. So this would be the negative from this particular module will be going into the inverter, and that for to drive the car. So this is the most negative. And the reason I know that is because not only it says 29 on it, but also because I have an extra link in the module which goes to the negative, and that's for the BMS. So the reason that this module is sitting here is because it will then go to the contactor, the negative contactor, going back to the main battery box. The most positive will be up there. So the most positive from the pack will come down through and into here and into this contactor. Now I think I explained in the last video the reason for the contactors is purely for safety. It means that if anything happens to the battery pack, as soon as the 12 volts is turned off from the car, this battery pack doesn't become dead, but the link to the outside world becomes dead. It disconnects the pack from the outside world, and that's what these are for. So as you can see, we have the power connectors, the main power connectors that were in the Nissan Leaf PDU, which is the power distribution unit, or PDM, power distribution module, I can't remember which. But anyway, these are the main power connectors that were in that unit. The reason I took them out of the unit is because it's no longer of any use to me. I don't need it. I do need the connectors for this box, so that's why I took them out. This is going to be the approximate layout of the battery modules. As you can see, I have them all shoved right up towards the front of the car, and I've left a fairly large gap here. Now that is not for bringing cables through. I think I may actually cut the box here and right across, and then re-weld it back together again. The reason for doing that is the box is slightly too big. It's filing on the boot door, and it's also filing on the back seats when they are being folded down. So that extra, if I could take another 20 millimeters or so off of that, it would make a big difference. That was my brother-in-law going past in his tractor. So yeah, I had to take these out of the PDM. The reason I want to use these is two reasons. First of all, if I bring the power to the front of the car using one of these connectors, it means that everything is modular. I can unplug things and as I need to, move it around as I need to. It just makes things a little bit simpler in some ways. But also it makes things safer. And the reason it's safer is, should anybody pull the power lead out of this connector at the same time that the car is turned on, so the power is turned on, so everything is live, it will automatically kill the power from the battery module, from this battery box. And what I mean by that is, this connector here is an anti-tamper switch. When the plug goes into the socket, it shorts out a couple of pins in the socket, and I don't know if you can see them or not really, they're in the middle, but shorts out two pins and shorts out that connector. Now what I intend to do is to drive these two contactors through, either directly through this or use this to control them in some way. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm a little bit concerned that these are not heavy duty enough to carry the current required to drive the contactors. So this will probably trigger a small relay or something. I haven't decided yet, but basically whenever this is no longer short circuit, the power is no longer going to the contactors and the socket will be dead, which means that the cable will also be dead and there's no possibility of anybody getting an electric shock. That's the plan. So what I need to do now is to go ahead, cut this down, mark all the holes and take it from there. So I shall not bore you with the cutting and welding, but you've seen that before. I'll not bore you with the hammering of this. You've seen that before. I'll go ahead and get this done. Right guys, so we have drilled the holes for the batteries to go into the upper battery box, and we're now fitting the riv nuts, which are these little things. I'm going to fit the riv nuts to the battery box. I'm going to do it using this tool, a riv nut tool. There's a couple of different versions of these. This is one of the bigger, slightly more heavy duty ones. Probably for the likes of M6 riv nuts you can get away with smaller ones, but for anything bigger than M6 you might struggle with them, because even with this one, M8s are kind of hard work, and I haven't even tried M10 or M12 yet. So definitely, especially if you're using steel riv nuts, these things are hard work if you're using a smaller version of them. But anyway, I shall go ahead and show you how I'm doing it. So basically, you screw the riv nut onto the end, like so. Push it down through the hole, like so. And just pull it up until it goes tight. You don't want to go too tight, especially the M6, so you'll break them. And then you can unscrew it like that, or I'm just using a power tool to speed that up a bit, because I've got a lot of these to do. As you can see, we are doing this on a cold, wet, rainy day in Ireland. So we're inside with the door closed. You can see exactly what's going on. So into the hole I said, for an M6 riv nut, it's a 9mm hole. Put it in the hole, squish it, jobs are good. And it's as quick as that to put a threaded nut into your box. Now obviously these riv nuts are going to be sitting up slightly. I'll just bring it down and show you what I'm talking about. They don't go fully flush on the bottom, they're almost fully flush on the top. As you can see there, that's almost fully flush, it's just a slight rise. That shouldn't be a problem for the batteries. And underneath they stick down a fair bit, maybe 10mm down below the box. So that's something I'm going to have to allow for when I put this box into the back of the car. I need some way of spacing it out by 10mm, but a bit of plywood or something will do the job. It's not, I'm not going to overthink it or worry about it too much. So guys, for the riv nuts which are close to the edge, there's no way that I'll be able to get to those using the riv nut tool. So what I'm going to do instead of that is just use a standard 10mm bolt, a piece of brass, basically using something brass because it's it'll turn easier on it, and use it a bit like a brass bushing, I suppose. So basically what I need to do is to put the rev nut into the hole, screw through the brass and start to thread that into the rev nut. And using my, this is an impact driver which would just wrench this out. I mean, just rip it out completely if I was going too hard at it. So I need to be really, really gentle and careful with it so that I don't over tighten this. But it did work once, albeit with a bit of a wobble. There we go, done. That's it. It does work, but that's how to put a rev nut in. If you don't have the tool, just an old piece of brass or a big heavy washer or something like that. Screw it in till it tightens up a little bit, and then just either wrench it with a spanner or use an impact driver. But once again, be really, really careful, especially if you're using one like this, that you don't overdo it. I did do the first one with this impact driver, but it's very light duty and it was struggling, so that's why I went with the heavier one. Put it in. That's better. Simple as that. So the good news, guys, is that somehow, I'm not sure how, I managed to get all of those rev nuts lined up correctly, and every single one of them that I was able to fit is secure. The screws are going down through and are secure. These are the screws I'm using. These are the original eGolf screws for holding down these modules. So I know they're the right thing for the job. And they happen to be just exactly the right length too, so probably no surprise. So what I plan to do now is I'm actually going to cut out a hole. Rather than having three separate small holes, I'm going to cut out a large square hole here, just where this gap is in between the two modules. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to be able to get a torch someday after going through, maybe through a big puddle or something, get a torch, lift the lid off this box and shine the torch down through there, through into the box below, just to confirm there's no water in there, because that would be a disaster. If that bottom box was to start filling up with water, that would be a major disaster. Or even if it just was getting significantly wet, that would be bad. So that's the reason for why I'm going to do this. So now I'm going to take all the batteries out again, cut out that hole, and then we'll see about getting the box in its final location, properly fitted, and get it screwed down, and then that would be a major task accomplished. Then I have to get these in, the contactors and a fuse, and get the main connection, which probably will go somewhere here, to take the cable, so the cable can come out and head up towards the front of the car. If you remember back to some of the previous videos, you may remember that I managed to get the BMS working on all of these batteries. Now, to do that, I at the time had to make a connection on that module there, which is module, I think I have written on module 13, but it's not 13 anymore. The problem I have is that when I originally set up the sequence of the modules, I basically arranged them in the same manner they were arranged in the eGolf battery pack. Now, because of the shape of the battery box underneath and the modules that are in there, and the shape of this box and the modules here and the ones and so on, basically I can't do that. So what I've had to do is come up with a sequence so that that module remains the middle one, and it will still have if you can see it there, numbers 47 and 48. Cell numbers 47 and 48. I can turn that around. Yeah, 48, and this one I think is 47. Anyway, that one has to have cell modules 47, or cell numbers 47 and 48. And the reason for that is because there was a second negative that came off. I can't remember if it was 47 or 48. It was one of the two, but it was to do with the battery module, the battery pack being split in two by the Nissan Leaf. I know it's confusing. I'm talking about VW battery modules and Nissan Leaf battery modules, but these battery modules came out of a VW, but I'm using a Nissan Leaf BMS, and the Nissan Leaf BMS requires, or had, a break in the middle of the pack. There was a service disconnect in the middle of the pack. VW didn't have that, but that's by the by. The Nissan Leaf had a service disconnect which went between cell numbers 47 and 48 or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but that module has to stay in the middle of the entire pack, so that the BMS basically is okay. So I've figured out that that's correct there. This module must be the most negative of the entire pack, which is why it's here. So what I've done is I've brought the cables up from the 6 battery modules that are in the pack below. They're all connected and all good, I hope. So what I've done is I have drawn up basically a diagram of this top box, and this is the 2 connections coming up from below. So as you can see, what I've done here is I've written that this is modules 96, 95, 94 and 93. So cell numbers 96 to 93 are in this module, and then it goes down into the pack below and comes back up again, and these are all the cell numbers in the pack below, and then it comes up to here to cell number 68, and then just goes down the cell numbers along here. Now for connecting the main high voltage heavy duty wire, this is not important, but for connecting the BMS in the end, this is critical. So anyway, what I'm doing now is putting 4 screws into every module and just screwing them down, and to do that I'm using this, which I just picked up the other day. This is a very nice drill. So all I'm doing is going around and lightly screwing in the securing screws for each of these modules. Also forgot to mention that I have, as you can see, made up the high voltage connections coming from the most positive and the most negative to the external socket here. Now of course I haven't got any other connections made, so there's no high voltage here at all. It's just the voltage of the individual module. The most positive comes out of here. It's going through this fuse and into this contactor, comes out of the contactor, goes along here, and into the high voltage connector here. So this is going to be our most positive. from this pack. There's another pack at the front, so this will be feeding into the pack at the front, into the negative of that pack, and then coming out of it to be the most positive of the entire car. But the negative from this module here is just going down and into this contactor and then into this connector, and it will be the most negative of the entire car. So that's how this is being wired up. These contactors then will need a 12 volt connector or 12 volt power connection from the front, so that when the ignition is turned on, the two contactors are activated and this socket then becomes live, and the cable going out to the front is live at that point. This over here, so you see what I'm doing. These two cables are both coming out from below. These are coming from the pack below, and the negative, if I remember rightly what I'm doing here, the negative of this one will go on to here, and the positive of this one will go on to here. Yes, that's correct. So that's how that's being wired. So now I just have to get on with it and do it, and get all the connections in, very carefully, of course, so that we don't get sparks. Don't like sparks. Sparks are bad. Apologies, it's been a little bit of time since I last posted. Been busy with other projects, and also managed to tweak my back, which made things a bit difficult. So just starting to get back into it again now. Anyway, as you can see, we have the back box or back battery box pretty well laid out in how it's going to be. I have the connections coming up from the lower battery box, and as you can see, I've got them in orange conduit for safety, and so they're easy to recognize that they're high voltage. So they're coming up and joining into these two modules, and we have all of the other connections pretty well made off, with the exception of a couple of joints between across here and across here. Basically, at the moment, I'm still working at all of this, trying to tidy it up and get it operational, so that when we power up these two contactors, that the power will go through to this connector here. I'm going to use this cable through this relay to drive these two contactors. Now, the reason I'm using the relay is because these contactors together can draw half an amp or something like that, maybe a little bit more. And I'm not 100% sure that this connection is suitable for carrying a heavy load, or even a load of around half an amp. So I thought if I used a relay to drive the two contactors, then that would reduce the load to a few milliamps just for this relay. As you can see, as I've managed to get this slot hole that I cut out, I've got some insulator on that, and I'm going to bring the 12 volt connections outside of the main battery pack, and I'll try and connect all of them external to the battery pack. It means that I can close up the lid of this pack and basically leave this as a sealed unit, and then all of the low voltage stuff is going to be out here. So now I just need to figure out a way of powering the whole thing. Obviously I want, when you turn the ignition to the on position, that it enables the contactors here. So I need to find one of these wires, have a look in there and see if I can find one that will be 12 volts with the ignition on, and take it from there. Okay guys, so I've made a bit more progress. I have, as you can see, a little white box down here, and if I take the lid off that, there's a whole mess of wires inside, plus a small relay. The small relay is triggered by this wire, which is a 12 volt switched wire. Whenever I turn on the ignition, this goes to 12 volts, triggers the relay in the box, and the relay in the box then enables these two contactors. These two contactors are getting their 12 volts from this wire, which isn't actually properly secured yet, but this is only very temporary, so nothing to worry about. That's plastic, so don't worry about it touching. So that 12 volt feeds into the normally open side of the relay, and then the normally closed side of the other side of the normally open of the relay comes to the two contactors, and when I turn on the ignition it activates the two contactors. So that's good. I still don't have the batteries all connected yet, so I think at the moment there's about 14 volts going across that contactor and about 14 volts going across that one. Not big voltages to worry about. I guess the next step is to get this cable right back to the front of the car so we can actually do the whole thing properly and make it go live. But very, very pleased. It's a big step forward. It means that I can now, as soon as I get this bit finished, put the lid on this box and go back to the front and start working at the front of the car again. Anyway, we'll come back when we get a bit more done. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.